Welcome everyone to the video review show. We're really glad you could join us today. We've got a pretty fascinating deep dive planned. We're going to be exploring something called Astral Fragments. Now, our source material for this, it's a really compelling video, also titled Astral Fragments, that we found over on the 190 Vision YouTube channel. And in that video, our guides are Laura and her husband, who's known as Coach. He's the one doing most of the explaining on this, well, pretty complex topic. So our mission today really is to pull out the key insights from their video. We want to help you understand what these astral fragments actually are, how they might, affect people without them even realizing it, and what kind of things can cause them in the first place.
This is 190 Vision Revisited, where reflection sparks transformation.
Okay, so let's start unpacking this. Laura kicks things off in the video, asking Coach to explain basically what are astral fragments. It's a great starting point for us too.
Yeah, it really is. And what's interesting is how Coach immediately grounds it. He starts with this fundamental idea. All living beings are energy, like at our core, even though we see ourselves in, these physical bodies. He's saying that's just one part of it. Understanding this energy thing is, well, it's crucial for getting the whole fragment concept. He explains that when the physical body, dies, goes to the ground, cremation, whatever the energy part, the bit that goes with the soul or consciousness, it doesn't just stop. That energy continues its journey. It carries the essence, the memories, all of that. And here's the key part for fragments. Like any energy, he says, this energetic part can sometimes detach. It can literally break off from the main energy body. Once it's broken off, it's kind of adrift. It can wander, float around, and importantly, it can attach to other things or other people. And that detached, wandering piece of energy, that's what they call an astral fragment. It's like an energetic splinter that got separated.
Okay, wow. So, energy first, then the potential for breaking off. That's a really different way to think about, ourselves. And Coach builds on this, right? He talks about not just one physical body, but multiple energetic bodies, layers almost. He mentions the first layer, the one closest to our physical selves, is called the etheric body. And what really struck me was how he described it. Not just some fuzzy aura, but an exact energetic replica, like a blueprint of your physical body, organs and all, but made of energy.
Exactly. A blueprint is a great way to put it. And he doesn't just leave it as a concept. He points to something pretty concrete as evidence. Phantom limb syndrome, where someone has lost a limb, maybe through surgery.
Right, but they still feel it there, like itching or pain.
Precisely. And Coach's explanation is, well, that happens because the energetic limb, the etheric part of it, is still present. It's still active. The energy blueprint of that arm or leg is still there, even though the physical part is gone. He even mentions experiments where they apparently put needles in the empty space where the limb was, and the person felt it, as if the limb was still physically there. So for them, this is pretty solid proof that the energetic body is real and can feel things. So what this really does, for you listening, is it establishes this idea that our energetic side isn't just theoretical. It's functional, it persists, it feels. It suggests maybe we aren't just limited to our physical form. And understanding that this energetic body is real and perceptive, well, that really sets the stage for understanding how bits of it could break off and cause issues.
Okay, that makes the phantom limb thing make a whole new kind of sense. So we've got the idea.
Yeah.
We're energy, we have an energetic body, and bits can break off. Now, the video gets into how this happens, and some of the examples Coach gives are, they're quite common life events, which is maybe the surprising part. He flags one as a big one, especially for women, which he said was even new to him until recently. Childbirth, and also miscarriage.
Yeah, this was quite eye-opening. He talks about the placenta being expelled after birth. Physically, yes, but energetically, too. He calls it a purging. But, and here's the crucial bit, if the mother experiences intense negative emotions during birth, extreme pain, maybe anger at the situation, the partner, the baby even, or self-blame, or just that desperate, get this over with feeling.
Which sounds pretty understandable, honestly.
Totally. But energetically, Coach says, those intense emotions can interfere. They can stop the energetic process of the placenta fully releasing.
And he mentioned medical interventions too, like anesthesia.
Right. If anesthesia is used, the muscles aren't contracting naturally. And that can mean the energetic placenta, which is supposed to come out with the physical one, might actually get stuck. It remains inside the mother's energy field.
And that remaining energetic piece is what they call a missing bit.
That's exactly it. A fragment of the energetic placenta that didn't fully leave.
Wow. And the same for miscarriage.
Yes, he can exit there too. If the energetic attachment to the pregnancy isn't properly released after a miscarriage, those energies can also linger, creating a similar kind of missing bit. The emotional weight there is huge, obviously.
How does someone feel if they have this missing bit?
According to Coach, the feeling is often one of incompleteness. Like something's missing, they don't feel whole, or just subtly not themselves. It's a persistent sense of lack. And the video suggests that when this specific bit is restored, people report feeling whole again, sometimes dramatically so. It can apparently improve different areas of life that felt stuck.
That leads perfectly into Laura's own story in the video, which wasn't about childbirth, but was really powerful. It shows how everyday things can cause this. She talks about falling on ice when she was about 8, hit her head, blacked out for a moment, got a big lump, and when she got inside, her mom was frantic because Laura had apparently been missing for like half an hour, but Laura had no memory of that lost time. Classic shock sign, right?
Definitely sounds like it.
So the long-term effect for Laura, she said, was feeling like an airhead for years. Like information just wouldn't stick. It went in, then fell right out. A constant frustration.
Wow, for years.
Yeah. Then, much later, Coach was doing some energy work with her and identified a missing bit right there from the back of her head where she'd hit it. And as soon as it was, energetically replaced and restored, she said her memory improved significantly. She just felt a whole lot better, finally losing that airhead feeling.
It's an incredible story, and it really illustrates what Coach was saying about physical trauma,
Yeah.
especially shock or being knocked out. It's like the energetic self feels it needs to partially leave to survive the intensity of the moment. So a piece detaches, floats nearby, maybe still connected by a thread, but it won't come back fully until it feels safe.
Yeah.
So for all those years, that piece of Laura's energy related to memory or focus was just waiting. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Little bumps or shocks from childhood.
Totally. Things you'd completely forget about. Okay, so trauma is a big category. What else did Coach mention?
Well, he broadened it out to other traumatic life experiences. A really common one he cited is divorce or separation, specifically the impact on children. The emotional upheaval for a child can be so immense that they might shut down emotionally as a coping mechanism. Energetically, that shutting down can actually force a piece of them to fragment off.
And that affects them later in life.
Often, yeah. He suggested it can manifest as difficulties with relationships or emotional connection in adulthood, because a part of their energetic capacity for that is literally missing or detached from that childhood trauma. Loss of a loved one is another big one. The sheer grief and shock can cause an energetic piece to break away.
That makes intuitive sense, the feeling of being diminished by grief.
Exactly. And physical trauma, again, like concussions, getting hit in the head, maybe playing sports, can jar an energetic piece loose, leading to subtle cognitive or emotional issues later on.
Okay, and you mentioned surgery earlier. Coach really emphasized that one, didn't he? Yeah, he basically said almost everyone who has surgery likely experiences some fragmentation. He sees it as highly traumatic, not just physically, but emotionally and energetically. The cutting, the vulnerability, the whole environment.
And the drugs involved, right? Anesthesia, pain meds. It's a combination of factors that disrupts the energy body significantly.
It's interesting that 190 Vision specifically offers support around surgery then, like preparing people energetically beforehand and helping clear things afterwards.
Yes, they seem to view it as a really critical time for potential fragment creation or attachments.
Yeah.
The video mentioned they have testimonials about how much that support helped people recover better.
Okay. What about abuse? That seems like an obvious source of trauma.
Absolutely. Coach included any type of abuse, verbal, emotional, physical. He said it can cause profound energetic fragmentation. It applies to adults in abusive situations, obviously. But he particularly stressed the impact on children, whose energy systems are just more vulnerable to that kind of deep damage.
Right. Now, Laura asked a really important question in the video about self-abuse, like drinking, drugs, smoking, things people do to cope. Can that cause fragments?
Yeah, that was a crucial distinction Coach made. His answer was essentially no. Self-abuse itself doesn't typically cause the fragments. Instead, he framed it the other way around. Those self-destructive behaviors are often a symptom of something deeper already going on energetically.
Like what?
Like existing attachments or even possessions, external energies influencing the person. He said the person might be completely unaware they're being controlled or pushed towards those behaviors.
Okay, wait. So the drinking isn't causing a fragment. The drinking might be happening because of an attachment that's already there.
That's the distinction he made, yes. It's a really important shift in perspective. It suggests the behavior isn't the root cause, but a signpost pointing to an underlying energetic issue, possibly an external influence.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot to think about. It reframes addiction and self-destructive patterns quite significantly. So if attachments can cause behaviors, that leads into Another major category Coach discussed: fragments from people who have died. He called this a big one they see often.
It sounds a bit spooky maybe, but the explanation is energetic. When someone dies, their energy leaves the physical body, but that process, often being traumatic itself, can cause the energy to break into pieces. So you have these fragments of deceased individuals' energy floating around.
And how do they attach to living people?
Coach explained it as attachment by frequency. It's not about knowing the person, it's about energetic resonance. Like if a fragment carries a strong frequency of, say, unresolved anger, and you happen to be feeling intense anger, your frequency might match, making you susceptible to that fragment attaching.
Like tuning forks resonating.
Exactly like tuning forks. It doesn't need a personal connection, just a vibrational match at that moment.
And where might you encounter these? He gave some examples, right?
Yeah, some pretty surprising ones. Funeral parlors, hospitals, places with a high concentration of death and dying energy. He said just walking past could be enough if your frequency matches something there.
Just walking past. Wow.
He gave a specific example of someone who walked by an abortion clinic daily and kept picking up attachments from the intense energy there, and cemeteries too. He debunked the idea that because they're dead, it's fine. The fragmented energy can still be present and attachable.
So his advice was, if you leave a place like that feeling weird or heavy,
pay attention. That's a sign something might have latched on.
And are these deceased fragments, like, are they malicious or just there?
Generally, Coach described them as non-beneficial, mostly because they originate from trauma death, and they lack the context and control of the whole person. He used a great example. Someone who loved chocolate when they were alive. That love was balanced within their whole being.
Right, most people like chocolate but don't eat it constantly.
Exactly. But if a fragment representing only that intense love for chocolate breaks off and attaches to you, it's uncontrolled. It just constantly radiates chocolate. So the person might suddenly develop an overwhelming, nonstop craving for chocolate, way beyond normal, maybe even leading to health problems like diabetes.
Okay, I get it. It's like a single desire amplified and running wild.
Precisely. Same idea with fragments from someone with alcohol or drug issues. The recipient might suddenly develop those cravings or find existing habits spiraling out of control. It feels foreign, uncharacteristic. Coach said that's a huge red flag if you suddenly have intense, unusual cravings or habits emerge. Check for attachments.
What about fragments from loved ones, though? Like a grandparent, surely that wouldn't be bad.
That's another counterintuitive point he made. Even fragments from loved ones, people who were genuinely nice and caring when alive, can be non-beneficial once attached. Again, it's because the fragment is just one part. It lacks the balance and control of the whole person. It just broadcasts its specific frequency constantly.
Like maybe a grandparent worried a lot, and that worry fragment attaches.
Exactly. Or maybe they had a specific physical ailment, and that energy attaches. Coach specifically mentioned grandparent fragments often attached to grandkids because children are more energetically open. And this could lead to unexplained negative feelings or patterns in the child's life as they grow up, stemming from that attached, uncontrolled fragment energy.
Okay, so it's not about the person's intention when alive, it's about the nature of the detached fragment itself.
That seems to be the core message, yes. Lack of integrated control.
The video also touched on people with certain health conditions being sources.
Yes. Coach mentioned individuals with conditions like schizophrenia, dementia, and Alzheimer's. He stated that these conditions often involve the person's own astral body already breaking apart.
So they are actually shedding fragments.
That's what he suggested. That the energetic disintegration associated with those conditions makes them, unfortunately, potent sources of fragments that can detach and potentially affect others around them. It adds another layer to understanding the energetic reality of those illnesses.
And one last specific source example he gave was locations, right? Historical trauma.
He explicitly used the example of visiting old concentration camps, places with such intense, toxic, collective trauma embedded in the environment. He suggested that the energetic residue is so strong that you could pick up fragments related to that suffering just by being there. It really highlights how energy and trauma can linger in places long after the events.
Wow. Okay. So we've covered a lot. The core idea of energy, the etheric body, phantom limbs, and then all these ways fragments can happen. Childbirth, trauma, falls, surgery, abuse, attachments from the deceased, even specific locations or conditions. This deep dive, drawing from that 190 Vision video, it really paints a different picture of things we might feel or experience. Understanding these fragments could potentially explain, those feelings of just not being whole or sudden cravings or behaviors that don't feel like us. It feels empowering in a way.
It does shift the perspective away from maybe self-blame towards potential energetic causes that can actually be addressed.
Absolutely. So if any of this resonated with you listening, if you've had that feeling of something's missing or something's not quite right, maybe this is a nudge to pay attention to that feeling. It could be your intuition signaling an energetic thing.
And Coach, in the video, was quite clear about reaching out if you have concerns. He basically said, if you feel drawn to connect with 190 Vision, just state your concern. You don't need to diagnose yourself or tell them how to fix it. They're apparently guided on how to help based on what you share. Trust their process, essentially.
That's good to know. Takes the pressure off trying to figure it all out yourself.
Right. And thinking about everything we've discussed, how even seemingly small things, a childhood fall, routine surgery, the loss of someone, how these can cause energetic pieces to leave. It leads to a pretty big question, doesn't it? How many of us right now might be walking around with these missing bits or carrying fragments from things long past, maybe totally forgotten? And how could that be subtly shaping our lives, our moods, our choices, our health, without us even realizing the energetic root?
What really stands out to you after hearing all this? It's definitely food for thought. It really is a lot to mull over. So if this deep dive has got you thinking, or if you want to share it or just learn more from the source, you can find 190 Vision in a few places. Their YouTube channel, just search 190 Vision. That's 190 Vision. Their website is 190vision.com. Again, that's ONENINETY.vision.com. And you can also find them on Instagram and I believe on the Amazon Fire channel too. Lots of ways to connect if you feel drawn to it. Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. Thank you so much for tuning into the video review show. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and maybe pay a little extra attention to those subtle energetic feelings. Farewell for now.